If you don't, they're able to breathe, you're going to breath stack them, then you're going to run into barotrauma and all of that. SIMB is what normally we use. SIMB means it's spontaneous, breathes with them. If they take a breath, it'll give them a breath afterwards. You get into pressure support modes, which are here. Pressure support, spontaneous and all that. It's something that I don't really deal with a whole lot because I don't like pressure. Pressure's complicated to me. I just usually stick with volume. So, going to your control button, you've got, hang on, let's go modes. We're going to just do this out here. 15 of pressure support, which is normal. Your respiratory rate, this is how much when they inhale, it's going to get a second's worth of breath. And you can change all that. This right here is your flow trigger. Your PEEP, 5 is where we always start. PEEP 5 is what we're breathing right now, roughly.
When it turns on, does it have like a set? It's already at this.
It's going to usually come up at 570, PEEP 5. This right here is going to be standard.
Okay, good.
So, and always, if you don't hit confirm, it's going to reset back to whatever. Like I say, for what we're doing here, I mean, by no means trying to insult anybody's intelligence. This thing, you know, you start talking to it, most of these guys, it's over their head, it's over my head, a lot of this stuff sometimes. Only reason being, every day at work, I use this thing at least once, if not twice. So, back to modes. We're in SIMB, confirm. If you don't hit confirm, it's going to reset. For the vent right here, what we did, we set it at 400 tidal volume. I took a picture this morning and put it in Teams. PEEP 5. Confirm. Start the ventilation. That's all you have to do. When you start it, it's going to start giving a breath. So you look at it, you say, okay, well, I really can't tell that those are doing anything, so I want to change it. Go to controls. PEEP. I want to take the PEEP away from it just to see what happens. You'll see how the balloons collapse completely down. Let's increase that PEEP. Let's go up to 10 of PEEP. So now we've got full, and it's not allowing the balloon to collapse back down, just like if I was oxygenating one of you guys, you know, I'd give you that big breath, you're not going to be able to exhale as much of it because of that PEEP being so high. Our tidal volume, like I say, 400 is where it works at the best. We can go up, 500. I was playing with it earlier when Chris was lecturing and everything, just to see what all it would do. You're not going to get as much with that tidal volume because of those, as you can see right here. If we were to have this vent and it not have the 21% already set, crank it down to 21% and it stops the alarming. If you have this vent, if you hook it up, like I say, to oxygen, you can dial it up to 100% to go from there. But for what we're doing, like I say, about 400 tidal volume, PEEP 5, you're going to see, the balloons are going to expand and they're going to shrink. So you're going to be able to actually be able to show the students what happens with PEEP or whenever you take the PEEP away. The mode, to go back to chase the rabbit back around for a second, there's a mode in here. It's called ASV. That mode right there is what was made for the United States Army. I got a patient, I got a man who's down, I intubate him, I hit ASV, I hit start, I'm done. That vent can make changes quicker than I can. It's going to figure out what he's doing, how he's breathing, and it's going to adjust. It's simple, easy.
Or how he's not breathing.
Or how he's not breathing. Even if he's not breathing, you can throw it on ASV. It's going to figure it out.
It has like an internal calibration to be able to test what the patient's doing and correct itself to make it
Yes.
assist. Okay.
So
it has internal capnography, right?
it does not have internal capnography. You've got capnography here. You've got end-tidal and pulse oximetry. That's another. When they built this, they were smart because they said, hey, the only way this is going to work is you're going to have to buy our stuff. That's not true. They did that to the Army. The civilian side of the house, we use this vent. We hook up to end-tidal to our cardiac monitor. put it on a tube, works perfectly fine. All that was right there was, we're gonna sell more of this, we're gonna make more money off of sound.
What does ASV stand for? Oh, I can look it up. I was just curious.
But did you
Army
hear that?
stupidity.
Do you mind
Get
if
it
I-
later. Get it
Sir,
later.
go ahead.
Let's go back to the modes and I'll tell you real quick.
Okay.
So
I'm
there's-
trying not to interject.
No, you're good.
I want to be helpful to you instructors.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give you some key words to say.
so right here, let me go back. Here was SCMV. So that was, like I say, controlled minute ventilation. That's where, like I say, if they're not paralyzed, it's gonna be a breath, a breath, a breath.
And that's where you
Breath.
set your volume and your like 12 breaths per minute, and it's
Right.
going to do that 12 breaths per minute on contact
Every
no matter what.
time, every time, and it's going, if I hit you with 500 of tidal volume, you're gonna get 500 tidal volume every time.
Every time over that.
Yes, sir.
So the SV on this unit is the same as AC on the Zoll, assisted
The
control.
CM is, or SIM, yes, it's the same as assist control, or
Sorry.
Zoll has, what'd you say it was again, I'm sorry.
I think it's AC,
It's
assisted
AC.
control.
Assist control is gonna be probably the same then as CMD.
So CMV is controlled mandatory ventilation, and that's what he's talking about. Think of it as controlled. You're going to get the set tidal volume no matter what. SIMV, spontaneous intermittent mandatory ventilation. So spontaneous means the patient can breathe anytime they want.
Right.
It's intermittent in that the ventilator is going to give secondary
Right.
stuff, but it's intermittent that they can breathe in between it, and then the mandatory ventilation. So what that means is
Gotcha.
you set the rate in SIMV at 10, I can breathe 2 breaths a minute over for a total of 12.
gaps.
And that's why you may set the rate for 16, but the
can
frequency
breathe
may
over.
be 18 or 20 because
You're
the
going to have a
patient
set
breathed in addition
baseline
to
plus
that.
theirs, right.
Right.
So the spontaneous is a variable tidal volume. The vent assisted is mandatory. So it looks like this. If I put you on SIMV, you want to breathe 2 times. If I set the tidal volume at 500, the ventilator's going to give you a breath. 500. But you want to breathe on your own now. So you're going to take a little breath. The vent's going to sense that, and then it's going to give you the oxygen and the pressure support, but you decide the volume. So you'll go,
Okay.
oh, that feels comfortable, and that's going to be a 250. Okay, so SIMV, variable tidal volume. The vent breath is 500, whatever it's set at. The patient sets their own tidal volume, and it may be different every time, 200, 150, 175, 200. SIMV, so just think spontaneous, intermittent.
Does the
SIMV.
patient also, for SIMV, does the patient also determine the rate with SIMV?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Because
because you don't set it,
plus-
you don't set the
You'll
rate.
set it,
You have to.
but you have to set the rate.
Okay.
So I wanna set a rate like
What's the standard rate?
12 to
for-
20 is
12 to
normal.
16.
Correct, okay, so
So-
you just, for the sake of I'm teaching tiny little baby medics who
But-
probably aren't gonna touch this
Yeah.
for another 10 years,
But CMV, it's just gonna be
is,
mandatory. It's
Well, I'm gonna show you
Control
right
mandatory
now.
ventilation is when the patient isn't awake,
There's-
so that's paralyzed, propofol, or
Jesus is
GCS is 3.
taking the wheel and we're going to do their shit for them.
So this is all pre-hospital stuff, you know that chart we talk about?
Confirm.
That's how you
All right, I wanna show you right here.
tidal
Okay, so
volume based
pressure,
rate,
rate
tidal
is what I
volume.
care about.
Right there. How many breaths is that? 23?
23.
All right, look at those lungs. Watch those blues. That's 23 breaths per minute. You see how quick that is?
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna crank it down to 12.
So it should be about once every 5 to 6 seconds.
And we're gonna go on down. Let's go down to 10. Always remember, if you don't hit confirm,
He didn't have to.
Yeah,
it's gonna go, whatever you adjust, it's not gonna be any good.
but they just need to do high level stuff, that's what I'm trying to just memorize it. And it's a whole bunch of stuff like, so I think of control mandatory ventilation, CMV, I just gave them a paralytic,
Yep,
fentanyl,
exactly.
they can't breathe on their own.
That's it.
Bad head injury and their GCS is 3, they're not gonna breathe in, that's
That's right.
CMV.
You're taking complete control of their entire respiratory
Because-
system.
Very rarely I would think you would do SIMV out in the field.
Yeah.
Because it gets too wonky. They'll be too tachycardic, then you'll get too low and their sats will start doing this.
But ASV,
Yeah, so that's what I want to look at. So you're saying that is a variable setting because there is a sys control ACV. That S on that ventilator doesn't make sense to me. That's why
See,
I'm
and
looking
it
at
will not allow me to go.
It
to
could be
ASV
automated.
And like I say, being this is a military event, why they have turned that off, I don't know.
The beam, that's the beam, whoever calibrates it does that.
So, I mean, like I say,
It may be because it's out of calibration.
it could be.
I thought it just
home,
came back from calibration.
No, it
there
expired
you
in
go.
22.
So that's not the
Everybody
same
is-
one we had last month then.
It's adaptive support ventilation. So that totally makes sense. So the vent is just like Brain said, that it's adapting to the patient's breathing. So if I slow down, increase the rate. Right, if the oxygenation's low,
And that's,
so that do right.
I'll put that
Right.
down. I'll do it. A friend of mine
do
is a
that
flight
right there,
nurse
and
and a
we'll put that
respiratory
in.
therapist, and that's what he uses all the
Right.
time, is ASV.
I just
because-
put that in Teams if y'all want to review it.
Sounds good. But he said, you know.
So
he
the
keeps-
ASV is
he
almost
keeps
like-
it in ASV because it can make changes quicker than he can.
Right. So ASV is like your cruise control.
Right.
Do y'all ever
Exactly.
calculate minute ventilation when you set the rate, like on a truck or not?
Well, yes, what we'll do usually is like look at ideal body weight and then start calculating,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
6 to 8.
So there's a really quick way to do that, if y'all want to learn how to do that. But that is the tidal volume and the rate. If you will multiply the rate, say 10,
Sure.
and you got a tidal volume of 500.
That's your minute
multiply-
volume.
Minute volume, right. So
Yeah.
10 times 0.5, and that's going to give you 5.0 minute ventilation, and that's too low. You need the number to be between 6 and 8.
Right.
So you either increase the tidal volume or increase the rate. But it doesn't matter what the tidal volume or rate is, because he's just giving you volume stuff. To make sure you're in a good zone, always multiply the rate times the tidal volume, and the tidal volume is point whatever the number is.
And if it's not between
6 and 8, right.
we have to
So,
adjust
so let's just
the
practice right
volume.
now. So they've got a,
Can we not put this away? I'll carry it to.
you got low.
So we have to tear it down.
Let Lane tinker a little bit.
All right, sorry.
What settings you got on that, bud?
That's
It's a 5 on P.
And this.
Put it in CMV or SMB, because that's gonna change.
Because they can see.
Go to modes,
Instead of here without.
CMV,
There you go. Now watch this.
confirm. Confirm. There you go. Now you can make your change.
So y'all calculate this on your phone if you got it. So your rate is 23, and where's your tidal volume at?
It's 310, isn't
It's
it?
still in S.
It's in 310.
It's still in that.
Confirm.
It's still in adaptive.
All right, so what should it see?
There it is right there. Okay. Y'all multiply 4.460 times 23.
Now you
Okay. So that's a rate of 23 and a 43 tidal volume. And we want the number 6 to 8, so that means the rate's too high or the tidal volume's too high. And we want to decrease it, because that's way too high. That means we're distending those lungs too much, and we're going to cause iatrogenic injury. We're going to hurt good lung. So that rate and the tidal volume is too high. So just make up a number. You got it 23, do 16, a rate of 16 times 0.430. There you go. So I went too low.
Came out to 6.8.
There you go. Perfect. Look at that. I've been doing that 20 years. I'll just be like, now I know what it is. So I don't have to do any fancy calculations. Just multiply two numbers and I know what the number is.
Just to go over it.
Yeah.
So I would just repeat that over and over and over and over. That was good, Brain. CMV control, SIMV,
spontaneous.
and then if you're going to use that ventilator, the adaptive.
Right. And like I say, that's in there just so you can drop it to you, hit it, and now I can move on to starting my.
In the time of their ventilation, it's this in pre-hospital, and you just want to keep them stable. All
That's
this
it.
fancy twicker and stuff is critical
You're
care
not
stuff.
worried about all that.
Yeah. I didn't mean to interject. I'm sorry.
No,
No, you're good. I thank you.
good learning.
Thank you.
The last class, somebody asked me to step up 30 seconds before, so I had to prepare.
You did great. And I went